Welcome to this symposium as part of Indica's symposium series. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Indica, as you all know, is an organization working for the protection, preservation, and promotion of Indic culture. We have many wings of the organization, many chapters all over the world, and many events that are being organized. We have two kinds of conference events. One is called conference, the other is called symposium. Today's event is a symposium. In symposium, we have invited speakers on a specific topic. Unlike in a conference where we send out a call for papers and we receive abstracts and we select from the sent abstracts. Nowadays, we added one more kind of program called a retreat. In Indica retreats nowadays, we are giving an opportunity for the past conference participants to come back and continue their research and look at their future research and so on. That's one kind of retreat that we are conducting. Another is we are picking up new topics for the retreats themselves. All these ideas, whether it is a retreat or a symposium or a conference or the topic for the symposium or conference, everything comes from our founder, Sri Harikiran Vadlamani Garu, who is incessantly creative, comes up with wonderful topics. This topic, Sannyasa, also came from him that way. We have already organized around more than 20 symposiums. Recently, he came up with this topic of significance of sannyasa. And recently we started one more kind of method for organizing these symposiums. We are sending out, unlike the earlier times when we used to send invitations to specialist scholars that we know, recently we have been sending messages to the scholars known to us and are asking either to volunteer or suggest names for the symposium. For this particular symposium, when we sent out such an invitation, as if it's a miracle, as if there is some mahima, all the topics that we envisaged, all the idea that we had in mind, what to be covered under the topic, all the volunteering scholars themselves came up with all those topics as if it is already arranged. Somebody behind is arranging the whole symposium. So this time, mostly the scholars are the volunteered scholars, unlike in the other symposiums where we identified and invited the scholars. And these volunteered scholars, as if knew the whole plan of the symposium, they came up with all the topics in our plan. Originally, our title was a bigger one. That is the title of my talk also today. Historical, sociological, and philosophical significance of Sannyasa was the original topic title given for the symposium. But later, for the convenience of making posters and all practical logistic problems, we reduced the size of the title and made it brief. We just called it significance of sannyasa. We thought of another word called significance of Hindu sannyasa also, but later we thought it is redundant because sannyasa is there only in Hinduism. In Buddhism and Jainism, the word used is shramana. They use the word shramana in parallel to the word sannyasa. And when we thought of the historical academic issue in the topic sannyasa, the first thing that came to our mind is how, not just in the topic of sannyasa, in all the upasana or sadhana or inward practice related topics, contemporary historians, particularly Indologists, are coming up with a theory that all these aspects within the Vedic tradition are a borrowing from the Buddhist tradition. There is a very famous, from a Hindu Indic perspective, we should say notorious theory called Greater Magadha theory by one Johannes Bronkhorst. Actually, that is a consolidation of a certain model of historical theory that he gave a name to that and he consolidates it in his own way. That theory is this, that the Vedic culture was all on the western part of the Indic subcontinent, and the entire eastern part of the Indic subcontinent, which he gives the name Greater Magadha, that had a different culture, and Buddhism, inward practices, upasana, sadhana, sannyasa kind of cultural aspects, all these belong to that Greater Magadha, the eastern part. And the Vedic culture, he uses the word Brahmanism, Brahmanical. This word Brahmanism has been used by Indologists in reference to Vedic culture from a very long time. So he says Brahmanism, by which he means Vedic culture, did not have these aspects, and it borrowed these aspects from Greater Magadha, where Buddhism originated. Okay, we have made rejoinders, we have rebutted his theory on several different occasions in our earlier symposiums and conferences. Our speakers, our scholars, myself, and others have shown how his theory has flaws. Not only we, actually, on the Western Indology side itself, there are scholars who go against this theory and say that early Buddha, in the original first Buddha himself, was actually interacting with Brahmanical or Brahmin scholars. Alexander Wine and other scholars, they have brought evidences of how Buddha was interacting with them. And there is the book called Origin of Buddhist Meditation. Even that shows how Buddhist meditation was a borrowing from the Vedic tradition. So all these and more evidences are coming up against the proposal that Vedic culture did not have any of these things. From the Western Indology side itself, one scholar came up with the paper research articles that meditation on Om was considered to be, at the time of death particularly, was considered to be a very significant cultural aspect from the Rigvedic mantras itself. And there is a Polish scholar, woman scholar, she showed from Rigveda itself all these foundations of Atman and many other concepts, and she shows how the Vedantic side, Upanishadic thought side already has foundations in Rig Veda. So not just we here in Indica Academy or any other Indica organization that we are giving rejoinders and rebuttals to Johannes Bronkhorst. Already there are rejoinders and counters to him coming up from Western Indology also. But particularly to this topic of sannyasa, people usually refer to Patrick Olivel's book. He has come up with many books on the topic of sannyasa. He actually published one of the Sannyasa Paddhati books, edited and published it also. And he is, as part of his broader interest in Dharma Shastra, he talks about the Dharma Shastra aspects of sannyasa also. And he has come up with books like the magnum opus on this particular topic is Ashrama by Patrick Oliver. This Sri Lankan Christian origin scholar who went abroad and settled in United States, uh, in his approach, uh, he follows most of these methods, foundations, and follows the line of thinking of scholars like Johannes Bronkhorst. And probably that is the reason why he uh, takes the same kind of line of thinking and says that, gives an impression that sannyasa on the Vedic side is also a borrowing from the Buddhist side. But when you read the book Ashrama meticulously, closely, this impression that he is saying that sannyasa is a borrowing from the Buddhist side into Vedic tradition, we would realize that that impression is wrong. Actually, he's not saying that. He is not saying that sannyasa is a borrowing. Actually, he uses the word semantic history also. He's actually talking about the words. And in that book also, he goes to the words like Shramana, for example. We have to be very careful. He says, Shramana, the word, which is actually more popular in reference to Buddhism and Jainism, has a Vedic origin only. It is used in the Vedic literature earlier to Buddhism and Jainism only. He does not deny this. The origin of the word Shramana on the Vedic side, he does not deny. But he says that on the Vedic side, the use of the word Shramana is not in the sense of ascetic life. He says that the word Shramana on the Vedics, on the word Shramana on the Vedic side, he says it comes from the word Shram, which means labor, which is a hard work. And he says that a Vedic hard work is what is meant there. So even a grihastha can be Shramana as per that kind of theory. Patrick Oliver's semantics. And then he says this word Shramana getting a meaning of Sannyasa happened only on the Buddhist side. And on the Vedic side, there is this word Sannyasa, he says, but that was later. The word Sannyasa itself, the origin of the word Sannyasa itself on the Vedic side is later. Another crucial point of his theorization is that ashrama as a word and the concept also are much later into the Vedic tradition. As per his theory, the word ashrama originally, actually he derives the word ashrama also from the word shrama only. And he says the word ashrama originally was used in reference to hermitages and settlements and all that, but not in the sense of a particular lifestyle. And he gives multiple etymologies that are given in the Shastra and his own etymologies, and then finally argues that ashrama originally meant only the settlement area, uh, not a certain lifestyle in the sense in which actually the word ashrama is used in the word varnashrama, where we talk of brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa as four lifestyles in four different life stages. That is not the sense in which it was originally used, is his argument. He says this meaning of lifestyle at different stages of life for the word ashrama is of a later origin. And sannyasa becoming one of those lifestyles at a certain life stage is as a result of his argument. He says it is all much later, after the ascetic life has been borrowed from Buddhism and after it got organized into a certain institution, then this institution of sannyasa was given the name sannyasa ashrama, and it got included into the other ashramas like brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. So organizing all these lifestyles at different stages of life as a particular system for ashramas and including it as varna ashrama vyavastha is all of a later origin, is his argument. But what he does not note and observe is that the word shrama, by the time of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad itself, in an oppositional way, oppositional means in a sentence, if you are using words one after the other immediately in a synonymous sense, that is called appositional, APPO, appositional use of the words. So in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad itself, the words shram and tap have been used in an appositional way, where it is giving a very clear indication that the word shram was used in the sense of tapa. The word tapa was taken for shram. And the word tap itself is abundantly used in Rig Veda itself and many other Vedas, Yajurveda, Dharvana Veda, and other Vedas also. So this Shram and Tap, the words Shram and Tap being used in a synonymous way as meaning the same thing, must be there in the origin of the word ashram, because the original hermitage sense, hermitage type of settlement sense in which Patrick Oliver and other historians identify this word also. They are places of tapas. And the word ashrama for brahmacharya, grihastha, and vanaprastha, apart from sannyasa, are also all of them are used in the sense of tapas comes out very clearly because all the lifestyles of different life stages have been considered as a tapas comes out very clearly right from Rigvedic, Yajurvedic, and Atharvana Veda, and some of the Samaveda mantras also. And that continues through Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, in the Pativrata Upakyana, in the Aranya Parva, Dharmavyadha is referred to as Tapodhana by none other than Kausa. Kausa, while setting out to meet Dharmavyadha as per the guidance of Pativrata, he remembers and then says, I would meet that great person, Dharmavyadha, Tapodhana. He calls him Tapodhana. And in reference to Pativrata's life also, the word tapas is used. Because tapas and shrama, tap and shram are used in an equivalent sense as an austere life of certain vows and uh, convictions. Use of the word ashrama, both in the sense of hermitage filled settlement pattern and in lifestyles of different life stages, has this common sense, common meaning, common semantics, that it is actually samantat is the prefix there. So a fully tapa oriented or vow bound lifestyle or vow bound life or a place where such a vow bound settlement where such a vow bound life exists. It is a place of tapas or it is a lifestyle of tapas of different life stages is what we are able to see in the meaning of the word ashrama. And he himself does not deny that Upanishads are full of these sannyasa lifestyle descriptions. And those Upanishads, which are full of these sannyasa lifestyle descriptions, are obviously pre-Buddhist Upanishads. He cannot deny that. So, this association of sannyasa, he himself is diligent enough to agree that we cannot equate the origin of the word sannyasa with the origin of the concept of sannyasa, origin of the lifestyle of sannyasa, origin of the idea of sannyasa. So, if we identify that there is, without the use of the word sannyasa also, there is this idea of what later came to be called more frequently as sannyasa, already existed in Rigvedic, Yajurvedic mantras, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Yaskas, Nirukta, and Upanishads. So, as he was cautious enough to use the word semantics for his historical tracing, this semantics is different from the actual origin of this kind of thinking. So much so for the historical side, I just wanted to make a mention of what Patrick Oliver does in his book Ashrama and counter uh, his arguments with a different perspective. Then comes the question of the sociological significance. If you read any book on sociology or anthropology or any amount of research literature publications in the fields of sociology and anthropology all over the world, when it comes to the question of social institution, all that comes to their mind is family. There are no chapters dedicated, or there is no focus on non-family kind of life at all in that. When we say this, we are not limiting our focus to India, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, all the dharmic religions and only. It is a universal tendency that in the contemporary Western cultures also, we see people taking a decision not to marry. They live singles. They live as singles, bachelors. People might not be interested in getting married or might want to live non-family life. How to account for this? How do you theorize about this tendency and that lifestyle? That is not covered in sociological and anthropological literature. And within the Abrahamic religions also, particularly in Christianity, there is this unmarried religious preachers uh, that work for, dedicated for their religion, mostly for their usual evangelical proselytizing purposes. Among them, you have both men and women. This literature on sociology and anthropology does not cover even those. They don't. What they have observed all around them in the form of Christian unmarried practitioners, religious practitioners, even that is not covered there. Within Islam, Sufis, who are considered to be a little deviant within the fundamentalist Islam, there you have this unmarried Islamic practitioners. They use different words. One of the most popular words in that sense is fakirs. Even in reference to such unmarried Islamic practitioners, religious practitioners, there is no coverage in sociology, anthropology. What motivates people to get away from family life? And if they go away from an organized, institutionalized life called family, is there a way for them that actually institutionalizes that non-family life also in a very systematic way? These questions are not taken up. While a historian like Patrick Oliver uses the word institution, institutionalization for sannyasa, in the same university, in the same country, professors, academicians, researchers dealing with institutions, social institutions, they don't come to this topic and deal with it as a social institution. Whereas in a country like Bharat, there is a very big focus, very specific focus on this particular social institution. In all the dharmic religions, Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism, and the relative significance given to this particular lifestyle of asceticism within Buddhism, Jainism, and Vedicism, Hinduism, or whatever word you prefer. Even that is a very interesting topic. Whether only a sannyasa can get moksha, a sannyasi can get moksha, or persons from the other ashramas like brahmacharya, grihastha, and vanaprastha also can get moksha. Whether a grihastha is entitled to get moksha, on all these questions, there is a wide difference between the other two dharmic religions, Buddhism and Jainism, and Vedicism. These lead to questions of philosophy, philosophical questions. Within Vedic tradition itself, within various schools of Vedanta, also there are differences of opinion with regard to this, whether sannyasa ashrama is essential for a person to get to moksha, or a person can go to moksha from grihastha ashrama itself. Whether giving up karma and going to jnana is essential, or there is a karma jnana samuchaya possible. About these issues, there are differences of opinion within various schools of Vedanta, but all these schools of Vedanta have sannyasa. So how they deal with this question is a philosophical question. This is not there in the Western philosophy and the philosophical debates or philosophical questions, because they did not focus on a sociological institution called Sannyasa itself. Brahmacharya is also a non-family institution. They did not focus on that. Vanaprastha, which is such an important topic. Nowadays, all over the world, there is a huge crisis of the old age people, old age life, retired life. The whole world is focusing on this crisis and the problem that the old age persons are facing. And all those sociologists and anthropologists and other academicians focusing on this particular issue have to identify that there is something called vanaprastha, identified as a particular social institution, a lifestyle of a certain life stage that is useful for them. What is useful for their own academic discussion itself, they are not using. So when the other three ashramas than grihastha ashrama, brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyasa, are taken into account as social institutions for a valid and useful sociological and anthropological discussion, cultural anthropological discussion, social anthropological discussion all over the world, that is useful for the world, that is useful for the globe. It is not a Hindu interest or a Bharat's interest or something like that. It is useful for the entire global sociology, global cultural anthropology, global social anthropology. And when it is identified that not just in Shramana tradition of Buddhism and Jainism, within Vedic tradition of Sannyasa also, the physical restraints and mental restraints like brahmacharya and restraint of sexual attraction itself are put as preconditions for a non-family life such as brahmacharya, sannyasa, etc., then they would realize the consistency in such an organization. institution. This whole worldwide tendency of escaping from family, escaping from marriage, but not escaping from the physical and mental tendencies, biological and psychological tendencies that are actually responsible for the tendency for family life, is leading to a huge contradiction. It is leading to a huge sociological crisis, that these people who do not want to take the responsibility of a family escape from family, but they don't escape from the biological and psychological tendencies that lead to family, and that is leading to a lot of antisocial behavior all over the world. In Sannyasa ashrama, organizing it as an ashrama, Sannyasa ashrama, samantat ashrama tapa. What is happening is this consistent relationship between what is required for a non-family life in the person that goes into that non-family life is all very well laid out. And that is what is missing all over the world in the liberty, freedom oriented thinking, where certain individuals want to escape from family but would like to live a family like life. And because they don't want to own up the responsibility coming up from that kind of indulgence, they are leading to all kinds of antisocial aspects, dangerous aspects to the society. I will end with one very important theoretical framework that I take up. I use the word reference framed thinking. The word reference frame we borrow from physics. Particularly after the theory of relativity, both the general and special versions of the theory of relativity of Einstein, this word's reference frame is very important. And people know, who understand the implications of both the special and general versions of the theory of relativity, they know that the laws which work in a particular reference frame do not work in the other reference frame without modifications in the variables. In spite of knowing that from physics, in the sociological discussions, in anthropological discussions, in the general philosophical discussions, and general social uh, discussions and commentary, people don't use this kind of logic and this kind of argument while talking about uh, what a sannyasi says and what a grihastha says. What is instructed to a sannyasi and what is instructed to a grihastha. For example, if there is an instruction to sannyasi by a sannyasi and there is a whole sannyasi target audience oriented literature where words like be careful with women, be careful with women are used, there actually, because of the consistency that I was talking about, because of the requirement of a biological and psychological control, biological and psychological overcoming of the family leading tendencies in a person, that ashrama talks about asking people not to be sexually attracted to the opposite sex. And in all the literature where a male sannyasi is talking to the other male sannyasis, because they are males, they use the word woman in the sense of sexually tempting and sexually uh, possibly misleading element. And looking at such literature, funnily, all these people say, all these yogis, sannyasis, all these avadhutas, all these people were misogynists. They are not misogynists. That is not misogyny. They are talking to themselves. They are actually, most of their literature and songs, if you see, they address himself. The person talking addresses himself and his own mind and say, oh mind, oh mind. And then he says, be sexually restrained. And he is telling the other sannyasi colleagues in the sannyasa group also, and his followers, sannyasi followers also, not to be sexually tempted. In that sense, he uses the word woman. And then they say that sannyasis are misogynists, quoting such expressions. This is the whole problem today all over the world. Different social groups, say for example, a gender group like women's group, used to have a women group privacy, gender group privacy. And women used to talk about the other gender group called males in a very casual cross group slur, what we call. They used to use cross group slur. Men groups used to use expressions about women. And same is the case with the different jatis, different varnas. All these different social groups used to have their own group privacy. And within that group privacy, they talk about the other group uh, in a certain way. But these are all reference frames, my friends. They apply only to that particular reference frame. They don't apply to the other reference frame. So all that applies to sannyasi reference frame does not apply to grihasthas. And that kind, while dealing with the sannyasi literature, sannyasi born literature, which is supposed to be addressed to the other sannyasis, should not be interpreted from the grihastha perspective or any other vanaprastha or brahmacharya perspective. These are all different reference frames, and the message to that applies to a particular reference frame actually should not be taken as a message to the other reference frame, and the message for a particular reference frame should not be interpreted from the perspective of the other reference frame. That is what is happening when we are blaming the sannyasis, looking at their vairagya expressions or their sexual restraint expressions and other things in a modern way, in a completely new context where they don't understand this reference framed thinking of our different social groups and different ashramas. All such misinterpretation is happening. With this, I would like to close my opening remarks uh, and my welcome address. I am very glad to share with you that the wide variety of issues within Sannyasa have been covered with the speakers today. On the traditional side, we have the Shankara Sampradaya being represented by Subramanian Chidambaranji, Vishishtadvaita Sampradaya being represented by Varadarajanji. On the textual side, we have Sushumna ji covering the Sanyasa Upanishads, and the Mahabharata is covered by Shivakumar ji. On the modern side, how sannyasa ashrama got a completely new and vibrant revival through Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement, particularly Vivekananda, who almost did what Shankara did to sannyasa in the medieval times, Vivekananda did to the modern period. That is being covered by Abhig Ganguly ji and Kanchan Gogte ji, both. Two scholars are covering Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement and its role. And in the wide range of other sannyasa traditions, Natha tradition is being covered by Mihir Keshari ji from JNU, and Kriya Yoga and its connection with sannyasa is being covered by a Swamiji himself, uh, Giriji, and we have Avadhuta tradition, which is very important from India. Actually, from the Western perspective, they get curious about the behavior of all these Avadhuta people. There is a scholar, a young scholar from Banaras Hindu University called Dasari Narasimha ji. He is covering the Avadhuta tradition with an example of one Avadhuta called Kasari Dinayana. And another very important aspect is gender. Women, whether they can take sannyasa or not, is a very big debate all over the world. How in Upanishads we have Gargi, Maitreyi, and other uh, sadhika women, how that tradition was lost and how it got revived through women's sannyasa tradition is going to be addressed by Swamini Swatma Vidyananda ji this evening. So, all the good coverage of all the wide range of issues that are to be covered have been covered by the scholars who volunteered all by themselves, as if our Pujya Sannyasa Swamijis have blessed us. Everything got arranged all by itself to cover every diversity within the broad topic of sannyasa. Wonderful symposium is waiting for you. I welcome you all for this one wide range of coverage of topics.